Let's talk about Clozemaster. You know, for the intro to this video, I wanted to do a comedy bit like we did for the Duolingo video last year. If you haven't seen that video, by the way, I recommend go back and at least watch the intro, if not the whole episode. I still to this day think that intro is the funniest thing I've ever put on film. Maybe that's not saying much. But I can't do it for Clozemaster. I can't do that kind of an intro for Clozemaster. Why? Because Clozemaster does not irritate me nearly as much as Duolingo did. Spoiler alert, for this review, I actually quite like Clozemaster and I do recommend it, but there are some pros and cons to it, so let's talk about it. Now before we get started, I want to make it very clear that this is not a paid endorsement. I don't work for Clozemaster, I'm not affiliated with Clozemaster, I don't get any money from Clozemaster, and I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just a guy who's used Clozemaster every day for the last year, and I wanted to do an honest review about my time with it. So let's get into it. Now I'll state right up front that my review is going to be specific to the German section of Clozemaster. I've not tried the other languages that they have available on Clozemaster. And my review is going to be specific to the web version of Clozemaster. I know that they have a mobile app, but I've actually never tried it. I don't do a lot of language learning on my phone. I prefer to do it on my laptop in a browser so I can have other tabs open and do research and take notes while I'm learning. How do we want to do this? Let's do the cons first. I don't have very many negative things to say about Clozemaster, but I do have a few, so let's get those out of the way up front so that we can spend the rest of the episode talking about the positives. Con number one for Clozemaster is that it is a paid service. Yes, I know there's a free version available, but in my experience, at least when I looked at it last year, the free version is extremely limited. Now, if you're on a tight budget or on no budget, if one of your language learning goals is not to spend any money on it, then I may have just torpedoed Clozemaster for you right off the bat, in which case, I'm sorry, you can close the video now and we're done. But if you're willing to spend a little bit of money, let's keep going. Another con for Clozemaster is that the user interface is, I'm going to use the word polarizing. You're either going to love it or hate it. Personally, I don't mind it. I think it's kind of cute and kind of retro, but I can see how some people might consider it a bit off-putting. It is pretty old school. If you're expecting a really slick and colorful modern web app with lots of sleek transitions and animations, you're not going to find it here. It's a very simplistic interface. Personally, I think simplistic is good. Simplistic can be very effective, but some people might not like it. Another con for Clozemaster is that they use robot voices instead of human voices to read the sentences to you. Now this is a little bit unavoidable just due to the sheer volume of content that they have. We'll talk about that when we get to the pros section. And the robot voices are usually not bad. I mean, they're not perfect. They don't sound fully human, but they're at least intelligible most of the time. And having said that, one of the cons I'm going to list here is that there is the occasional audio glitch. The robot voice is supposed to sound like this.
Hörst du, wie schnell spricht?
But every now and then, for reasons I don't know, it sounds like this.
Hörst du, wie schnell spricht?
That doesn't even sound human to me. Now, this is a minor complaint because if you encounter the distorted voice instead of the normal voice, all you have to do is hit the replay button. That's the space bar, or just click on the speaker icon, and 100% of the time, it will immediately fix itself. You never get the distorted voice twice in a row, or at least I've never heard that happen. The distorted voice only happens once in a while, and if you hit the replay button when it does happen, it fixes itself immediately, so it's not a huge deal. You're not going to pull your hair out over that. And another con that I will list for Clozemaster, and this is maybe just me wanting too much, is that there's not as many people on the forums as I'd like to see. There's not a lot of people using Clozemaster, or at least actively using the forums on Clozemaster, at least in the German section. Other languages might be more active than German, I don't really know. But if I compare and contrast to the old Duolingo forums, there were hundreds of active users on those Duolingo forums. I really missed those forums. That's the main reason I left Duolingo a year ago, is because they closed down all their discussion forums. Clozemaster still has those, but they're not nearly as active as the Duolingo forums were, which is a little bit sad. There's not enough people using Clozemaster. I'd like to see more people using Clozemaster. Now the quantity of posts on the forums is low, but the quality is very high, as we'll talk about when we get to the pros. And speaking of that, I think I am out of negative things to say about Clozemaster. All in all, it's a pretty solid language learning resource. So let's talk about the pros. Number one, there is a huge amount of content available on Clozemaster, at least in the German section. I'm going to scroll down the list here so you can see the orange progress bars represent the sentences that you have answered at least once. And the green progress bars represent the sentences that you have quote-unquote mastered. That is, that you have answered them correctly at least 4 times each. Now, as you scroll down this list, you see that even after spending half an hour to an hour per day for the last year on Clozemaster, I am nowhere near maxing it out. There is a ton of stuff here. Now that might be a bad thing depending on your personality type. If you're a completionist, if you want to treat this like a video game and set the high score, it's going to take you a very long time, my friend, to get there. I think I could spend the next several years on Clozemaster without getting all the way to the end of it, which is a good thing in my opinion. Now, I'll add a sub-point to this pro to mention that the variety of content that they have is quite good. They source a lot of their sentences from an external website, and they're not all, Dick and Jane introductory sentences like John throws a ball, Mary catches the ball, John and Mary are playing catch with a ball. I mean, there are sentences like that in the first few sections, but there's a wide variety of stuff. Everything from 18th century poetry all the way up to modern day street slang. There's swear words on here. There's real world examples of the language. And it's really nice to see such a wide variety of content. And I'll add another sub-point here to point out that there are sections on here specifically for certain types of, or certain parts of speech. For example, there is a section on prepositions which I attacked early on because I wanted to improve my prepositions in the German language. And man, that section was really helpful for that. There are other sections that are specific to other types or other parts of the German language. And I like that they've organized it like this. Or you can stick to the generic vocabulary building sentences in the first few sections and just, generally work through the sentences there. Another pro for Clozemaster is that if you scroll all the way down, they have a feature that's marked as a beta feature. Although, to be fair, it's been marked as a beta feature since literally I started using Clozemaster. I don't know if it's ever going to come out of beta. This is a feature where you can listen to actual human beings, actual native speakers of German, speaking some of these sentences. Now, this is a little rough around the edges. Audio contributions are volunteer provided, which means that, not everyone has the same quality microphone setup, so the audio quality varies wildly. Some of them are really good, some of them are really hard to understand. Your mileage may vary, but it's a good way to work on your listening comprehension, listening to actual native speakers speak these sentences, as opposed to the robot voices. Now, another pro of Clozemaster, and I cannot overstate the importance of this, is that they have a user forum. This is huge, guys. This is huge. In my review of Duolingo last year, I think I mentioned this already, but the reason I left Duolingo after using it every day for years and years and years, the reason I left is because they closed all their sentence discussions and their forums. I'm still heartbroken over that decision because they had very active language learning forums there, and they're all gone now. Clozemaster still has a language learning forum where you can interact with other language learners, and there are native speakers who hang out on those forums in their own time to help answer questions. This is huge. A single interaction with such a native speaker is worth 1,000 flashcard drills. Because if you spot a sentence on Clozemaster that looks kind of suspicious, like, wait, is that legit? Is that an actual way that German people would say that? Or is that a mistake? I don't really know. Without the forums, you walk away kind of confused about that, and you don't know if what you just read is accurate or if somebody hit a typo or typed it in wrong when they were entering that sentence. But with those forums in place, you can go and ask the question. You can say, is this something that a German person would actually say? And a native speaker will chime in and say, yeah, it was 100 years ago. This is extremely antiquated. Or they'll say, yes, in fact, this is perfectly legit German. Here's a bunch of examples of where you will see this. And you learn something new. Either way, you learn something new. In my review of Duolingo last year, I said that I learned just as much, if not more, from the sentence discussions than I did from the sentences themselves. And I will not only stand by that point, I will reiterate it here in Clozemaster. I've learned a ton from the native speakers who hang out in the forums on Clozemaster. It's a fantastic resource for language learning. And here's something else I mentioned in the review of Duolingo last year. When you get to a point in your own language learning studies where you can start to answer some of these questions instead of just asking them, if you're browsing through the forums and you see someone has asked a question that hasn't been answered yet, and you say to yourself, oh, I know that one, you can chime in with the answer. You can help other language learners the way you were helped when you were first learning the language. And that's a way of giving back to the language learning community, and I think that that's fantastic. But even if, let's say you're shy, maybe you don't want to share, you don't want to post in a forum because you're worried you'll embarrass yourself or whatever, that's fine. Even if you treat the forums as purely read-only, like I'm just going to browse, I'm never going to post a comment, I'm just going to browse around, they're still extremely valuable. It's one of Clozemaster's strong points that they allow conversations and discussions between users on the site. Okay, that about wraps it up for pros and cons. Overall, I would recommend Clozemaster if you have the budget to spring for the paid account. I think Clozemaster, from my own perspective anyway, was a solid replacement for Duolingo, and I've quite enjoyed my time there. Now, having said that, I'm probably going to allow my Duolingo subscription Now, having said that, I'm probably going to allow my Clozemaster subscription to expire at the end of the month instead of renewing it, not because I don't like the service, but because I think for the sake of this YouTube channel, this could become an annual thing, you know? Like last year I reviewed Duolingo, this year I'm reviewing Clozemaster. Starting now, I can start using some other language learning service, and this time next year, I can review that one. Every year I'll do a new one. I think it could be an ongoing thing. And that'll do it for today. We will see you next time on Lernen und Fahren.